Like, this is MMA. This is not boxing. It's so unpredictable, and this is why I think um, Rodriguez finishing Volk is a better probability than most people probably realize. What do you hear? What do you say? This is how to fuck up your parlay. I'm Timmy Shoes with Inside Fighting, and I'm joined by our editor-in-chief, Jesse Rowe. Jesse, we've got some big fights coming up. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm doing great. I'm very excited for International Fight Week and UFC 290, so let's talk about it.
So, let's get into it. Jalen Turner is the man. He is minus 285. He's a heavy favorite. He's coming off his loss against Mateusz Gamrot, who stepped in on short notice after Hooker pulled out. But I have to say, I thought that Jalen Turner won.
Agreed.
It was a split decision. Dan Hooker is 2-3. He's coming off of a win against Claudio Puelles. I think it's how you say his name, Puelles. So Hooker's obviously is not the guy. He hasn't really been the same guy since fighting Dustin Poirier. I think that's sort of a career-changing fight. He is a plus 240 underdog. Jesse, what do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I do think Hooker's he looked good in his last fight, and you're getting some decent return on him in this fight. I just don't like the matchup. Obviously, he's from City Kickboxing. And so him and Izzy train together a lot, but just like in terms of, if we want to talk about kickboxing, I just don't know if there's going to be much better at lightweight than Jalen Turner. I think his kickboxing his stand-up is really good. I mean, when Gamrot was standing with Turner, he was piecing him up. I mean, the only reason why that fight was even close is because Gamrot was like, screw this, I'm not going to stand with him anymore, went to the ground. But when that fight was standing, it wasn't even close, like not even close. And I just think Jalen he has too much size. He could fight at middleweight if he wanted to. Dude's big. And I just think they're on two different career trajectories here. And it's no disrespect to Hooker. I like Hooker a lot. One guy is kind of treading water, starting his descent, where one guy is climbing the ranks from a really cool gym. He's from the RVCA gym, and he trains with like Cheeto Vera. I really like Jalen in this fight, and I actually think this fight has all the recipe for a knockout. I'm predicting second round knockout, Jalen Turner.
Beautiful. I like the pick. It's kind of funny that you said one guy is treading water, because I actually think since the Poirier fight, Dan Hooker looks like he's fighting underwater.
Mm-hmm.
He's slowed down. He's lost a step. I think that fight, he took too much damage, and he hasn't really been the same. I like Jalen Turner by knockout as well.
Yeah.
So maybe since Jalen is such a heavy favorite in the money line, maybe you go on the prop bets and you look at Jalen Turner by knockout.
I agree. But if there's some decent return there, I would consider it, especially like maybe after the first round. I don't love first round knockouts generally, just, especially with guys like Turner, who he kind of does like volume a little bit. Let him beat up his opponent a little bit before he gets that knockout.
And going into the title eliminator at middleweight, we've got another heavy favorite, an even heavier favorite. Robert Whittaker is a minus 410. He's fighting Dricus Du PLessis. Du PLessis is coming in on a 7-fight win streak. Whittaker is 4-1 in his last 5. That only loss was against Israel Adesanya in a fight that some people thought that Whittaker won. Actually, I believe Robert Whittaker himself said he thought he did enough to win. So he's coming off his win over Vettori. Obviously, Du PLessis, he's undefeated in the UFC. He's coming off of a win over Derek Brunson in his last fight. It is worth noting that Whittaker hasn't fought since September of last year, and Du PLessis has 2 fights since then. So Du PLessis is a plus 310 underdog, and Whittaker is a minus 410 favorite. Jesse, what do you think of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, the odds are right. They make sense. Whittaker should be the heavy favorite in this fight. He was awesome against Vettori. That was his last time he fought. He was awesome. I mean, he outclassed Vettori in every way in that fight. And Du PLessis just relies on late game heroics a little bit too much for my liking against a guy like Robert Whittaker. It's not to say I don't think Du PLessis could win. I think he's the ultimate wild card. I think he's got that puncher's chance, as we talked about with Josh Emmett. I think he's very, very dangerous in this fight. I think Du PLessis is a little bit undisciplined at times, is the way of putting it. He did get nose surgery, which supposedly is going to help him with his breathing, because everybody says he's like a mouth breather who like is constantly out of breath. He's gassed. Supposedly he was only breathing out of one nostril. And if you try jogging up a hill, breathing out of with a stuffy nose, it's tough. So maybe that does matter. That does factor in somehow. Regardless of that, yeah, I still think Whittaker gets it done. And yeah, I would like the last fight, I would bet on the outcome rather than the money line, just because you're not getting much return.
I think decision is probably a good bet, because Whittaker is probably expected to he has such an advantage in the striking that I think people expect him to just sort of piece him up. Whittaker, he is a guy who can finish you, who can get those knockouts, but he's also a guy who can piece you up for 3 to 5 rounds. He has that 5-round experience. It's interesting. I think Du PLessis at plus 310, I mean, you got to consider it. I think Whittaker is a guy who has gotten clipped before. We saw it against Izzy. We saw it against Romero, has clipped him before. These karate guys who have that sort of in and out style, sometimes when they're blitzing, they leave their chins out there. I mean, we saw it. I guess the best
Yoda Machida is a classic case of this, by the way. That was always how it,
Yep. And Wonder Boy against Pettis.
Right.
So
I
believe it was a lead sidekick, and Pettis did a Superman punch. So it's like these karate guys who have a lead striking sort of can leave their chins up there and get clipped sometimes. But I expect Whittaker to be able to have the advantage to piece him up. It's interesting with that surgery, because I believe it was Justin Gaethje who also got a similar surgery, and he saw an improvement in his fights as well. I think Du PLessis at plus 310, though, I think those odds are a little bit too, the margin is a little bit too wide. I think if you want to, throw up some Hail Mary on Du PLessis at plus 310,
I agree.
He's giving you some value there.
I agree. I do like the bet. I just think Whittaker is going to win, but I wouldn't. If you want to sprinkle, that's a really, really good sprinkle. He's very good. He's very talented, very athletic. He could absolutely land a bomb on Whittaker, and this fight's over. No doubt.
So I'm going to agree with you and say Whittaker by decision. Yeah. But if you're going to bet Du PLessis, go for the knockout.
Yes,
because that's probably how he's going to win.
Correct.
Now, this is where things get interesting. This is one of the most interesting fights on the card. Brandon Moreno is defending his title against Alexandre Pantoja, who's beaten him twice. Okay. Now, Moreno is 3-1-1 in his last 5. That includes wins over Davison Figueiredo, a loss over Davison Figueiredo, and a draw. And Pantoja is 4-1 in his last 5. And it's interesting because he beat him once in 2018, and he beat him on Tough. I believe it was Tough 24.
Correct. Yes.
So this is pretty interesting. Moreno is the minus 205 favorite. Pantoja is a plus 175 underdog. Jesse, what do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I mean, this point's been hammered home all week. It has some mirroring to the Izzy Pereira stuff, where Izzy had lost 3 times before finally getting over that hump against Pereira.
Yep.
Moreno is a much, and he's pointed this out. Everybody's been pointing this out. Moreno is a much, much, much different fighter than he was when he fought Pantoja. Look at Moreno's training camp. His boxing looks excellent. I mean, he is sharp right now. I gotta admit, I don't know enough about Pantoja, but I think Moreno gets it done. I think I'm also just a sucker for Mexican champions. I have to admit, I live 2 hours from the Mexican border. I'm a big sucker for it. I think sports are better when you have Mexican champions. Sports are great when you have Brazilian champions. I mean, Charles Oliveira. I love Brandon Moreno, and I like him a lot in this fight. I don't love the odds, but I think it's closer than the odds would suggest. But I do think Moreno has done enough. He's adjusted enough. I think he gets it done.
And I mean, you know
I
me,
know. Go ahead,
I have a
Timmy.
hard time. I'm not going to bet against the Brazilians. I think Alexander Pantoja, he has that mental edge just because he's beat him twice, and I think he's going to find a way to find that neck again. And I'm probably going to regret that pick, but I'm not
What
betting
is
against my
he? So
Brazilian.
you think that that's where he has the clear edge in this? Is like if this fight goes to the ground, there's a clear edge.
That's his specialty, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's his wheelhouse. And he has two submission victories in his last two fights, both attacking the neck. One was a neck crank and one was a rear naked choke. Rear naked choke is how he beat Moreno. So I think that, I think it's going to be in a position where Pantoja has his back and Moreno is trying to defend it. I think that's going to happen regardless whether or not the submission gets sunk. At some point in that fight, Pantoja is going to have his back, and I think that's when he's going to get the finish. So now, going into the main event, we've got the featherweight potential GOAT. Not yet, but he's working his way up there. Alexander Volkanovski, minus 375 versus Yair Rodriguez, finally fighting a newcomer, plus 285. Jesse, what do you make of this fight?
Timmy, I love this fight. I absolutely adore this fight. I love the matchup. I think it's fucking fantastic. I think Alexander Volkanovski is incredible. I was so impressed with how he fought against Islam Makhachev. I think he changed a lot of people's opinions of him, even though it shouldn't have. It still did somehow. Mm-hmm. That's the definition of elevating yourself in a loss. He elevated his stature in a loss. I think Yair Rodriguez is one of the most interesting, unique, dynamic, and awesome fighters I've ever seen as a UFC fan. I love watching this guy fight. We posted a video of his high kicks, his spinning kicks, and everything, just his incredible repertoire of kicks that he presents. And they're awesome. Just go look at it. If you want to see just great footwork and kicks and just incredible taekwondo, go watch some Yair Rodriguez highlights. He's incredible. I genuinely have no idea who's going to win this fight. I think I'm supposed to pick Volk just because he's probably supposed to win. I think this is a 50-50 fight, to be honest. I genuinely do. I think Yair is just always in it. He can clip you at any moment. He's so creative. I think Yair Rodriguez is going to get it done. And I don't say that like confidently, but I think he's just going to find some way of getting it done. And I think it's going to be the first time Volk gets finished in a UFC fight. I think it's going to be something spectacular. And I think we're going to have another Mexican champion, undisputed. It's going to be an amazing moment. It's going to be an amazing fucking moment.
I believe it. There's a lot of things I want to say, building off of your points. You said Volk should probably win. Anytime you hear like, oh, he should probably win, it always sets off a red flag, right? Usman should probably win against Leon Edwards in the rematch. What happened? Juliana Pena should probably lose against Amanda Nunes. What happened? It's like we all expect Volk to win.
Yeah.
But whenever that happens, whenever there's a dominant champ, there's always like, this is MMA. This is not boxing. It's so unpredictable. And this is why I think Rodriguez finishing Volk is a better probability than most people probably realize. Think back to I believe it was the first Max Holloway fight. Max Holloway dropped. It was a flash knockdown, but he knocked Volk down with a head kick. Max Holloway's kicks and Yair Rodriguez kicks are two different ball games, okay? Yeah. I think Yair Rodriguez by head kick KO is a distinct possibility. I think Volk is going to be training for that. And all that being said, I like Volkanovski by unanimous decision, 50-45.
Oh, wow. You had me like hyped up there. I thought you were going with me and then totally fair. I mean, like we could see Volk get knocked down 4 times in this fight and still win by unanimous decision. Yeah, 100%. It's totally possible.
He recovers quickly. I think just Volk's fight IQ is just on a different level, and Yair is incredibly talented, incredibly dynamic, and hard to prepare for. But I just think Volk is on a different level than most other people.
So really quick, we have a minute left. if you're picking Yair, it's similar to the Du Plessis fight. It's going to be a finish. So if you want to pick winning method, Yair by KO. Head kick KO. The odds have to be crazy, but and maybe not. But either way, but Volk by decision, I feel like has to be the lowest odds, just because that's what Volk does. But I like that. I like the way you assessed it. I don't know, man. I feel like we're gonna end the night with something spectacular. I'm so excited, Timmy. I love this fight, dude. I love Yair. I love Volk. I'm excited and nervous, and yeah, I love talking fights with you, my man.
Thanks for having me. That was How to Fuck Up Your Parlay, UFC 290. Follow us on the socials, InsideFighting.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads now. We're on Twitter, YouTube. You know where to find us. Guys, thanks for watching. Peace.